Thank you for watching with us again today. We hope that you have enjoyed the content that we've provided and released throughout the week. We have sent out devotions, messages, and today we have the special privilege to interview Casey and Amber, members of our church here. They have a wonderful testimony, and I asked them if they would allow me to interview them so they could get their testimony out. I know that many people can relate to their previous situation, and you can see how God can transform your life the way that He has done theirs. So anyway, let's get to it. Casey, Amber, thank y'all for being willing to do this. I know it's a little bit uncomfortable and not too easy, but I appreciate you being willing to share your testimony and open up about it. So before we do anything else, let everybody know who you are. We'll start with you, Casey.
My name is Casey Amron. I'm 28 years old. I'm from Diboll, Texas.
All right. And Amber?
I am Amber Ambren. I'm 27 years old. I've been married for 2 years. I have 4 children, and I work at Brookshire's in Diboll.
Awesome. Great. So y'all have been attending New Life for how long now?
Next month will be 18 months. Oh, yeah, 18 months.
18 months, because it was November.
October.
October of
3rd,
2018.
18, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. And that's when things began to turn around for you. Things began to work. God began to put some pieces back together, if you will. And I want to, first off, and I try to tell y'all this privately, but seriously, in front of everybody else, we really appreciate y'all's faithfulness, everything that you do for the church. There's not very many people that are as dedicated as these two. They have a passion for God. They love God. In fact, recently we've asked them to work with our outreach ministry and doing a wonderful job there. So, but I asked them if we could just interview them today, and so they can share a little bit about their testimony. First thing I want to know is, what is your childhood religious upbringing? How were you brought up religiously? Either way, yeah, Casey. Go.
It was dry for a while. I remember one time I was probably around 4 or 5 years old. My aunt came in and picked us up, and I was introduced to the Pentecostal setting at that time.
Okay.
But there was a brief time in my life where I was going to Newville Baptist Church, but my setting is Pentecostal because, of the truth, and the word, that's what the word said.
Yeah, you got you. How about you, Amber?
I went to church. My aunt was the one who actually brought me into church. I went for a while to where I was there every day, it seemed like. I was faithful in my word. And eventually, as I got older, everything started crumbling.
About how old were you whenever that happened?
I was 15 when everything really started crumbling. My church van didn't want to come get me. I had no way of going. And then I just slipped all the way completely. I stopped praying. I stopped reading my word. I even stopped listening to my music. And then that's when I started really experimenting with drugs.
Okay, all right. So this is about 15 years old. Casey, what about you? What happened to you in your teen years? Begin to share with us a little bit about that.
Well, I remember I moved in with my mom, and I started attending Rosevine Pentecostal Church.
Okay. How old were you at this time?
I was 13 years old when I started attending this church, and I got real dedicated to serving the Lord, and got real discouraged because I wasn't receiving the Holy Ghost, but obviously at that time I had a lot of things that wasn't worked out. I see now that there were some things that I was still involved with that, that was hindering me from getting what I was seeking. But I eventually fell out around 14 years old and started following my own understanding, living in the world, and that's when things got really out of control.
Explain out of control.
Oh, well, there's probably not many things that out there that I haven't done. I got so into drugs. I was drinking a 30-pack a day. I made it my mission to hurt people, especially people that I cared about, and tried to turn around and manipulate them and make them feel like they were at fault for the things that I was doing. I mean, I was not a very good person. I mean, if there was a light, it wasn't in me.
Okay. Amber, what about you? Can you elaborate a little bit about what you started going through? I know you said you were experimenting in drugs. What else was taking place in your life in your teen years?
Well, I started going to parties. I started drinking. I started seeking love anywhere I thought I could find it. I really didn't even want to go to school, to the point where I would tell and make up things just to not have to go to school. I dropped out when I was in the 9th grade because I had enough, and after that, I just slipped down from there. I didn't want to have nothing to do with my family. I didn't want to have nothing to do with my friends. I thought I was better than anything, and truly all I was doing was feeding the flesh and didn't really care.
So, tell me about your home life support. Did you have a support system at home? What was going on at the house?
No, not really. Honestly, I didn't really have that support. My mom and dad had their issues, and it was more of less, you got pushed back. They fought with their things, and that was the way it was.
What about you? What was your home situation at the time? You said you were living with your mom, but then you started slipping away and getting into some things about 14. What kind of support system did you have at home?
I had the support that I needed if I chose to follow God. You know, when I did decide to, you know, I had all the support in the world from everybody in my family.
Yeah.
But whenever I went off, no one really wanted to get involved with that because of how I was. Because, you know, I mean, it would have caused more problems for them than it was absolutely worth.
When did y'all meet?
I was 17 whenever we met.
17. And was it kind of a love at first sight situation?
It was a move in at first sight. We talked at Brookshire Brothers one night. Her grandma had went up there, and she's like, "Well, I'm going to be at the Walking basketball game at this time," and I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll be there." Well, I showed up at the game. We didn't watch the game at all. I was like, "I got to babysit my sister. You want to come help me?" She's like, "Yeah." So we moved in. We've been living together ever since.
Okay.
That was about 11 years ago, 10, 11 years ago.
Gotcha. Okay. And then you've got 4 little girls.
Four
together.
girls.
All right. Good. How old are they?
11, 7, 8, and 3.
Wonderful. Good. Now, I'm assuming that at that point, whenever y'all found one another and got together, did life just immediately turn and everything got great and rosy, or what happened at that point?
Honestly, it started off, we were good. There was truly love there. Then we both really started experimenting with drugs, and it just slowly, the drugs were what was keeping us together. And through all.
What do you mean by that? Keeping the drugs? From keeping
It was keeping that passion. It was helping us love one another, hold on to one another, and just stay there. And we started afterwards. When it got really, really bad, that's when the fighting started. I was going to my family and telling them all these things. I was putting him on the back burner, putting him down, and trying to make myself feel better. And was truly saying all these hateful things I possibly could say about him just to make myself look good.
Okay.
And it was horrible.
Yeah.
And that's when the love stopped and everything just.
Okay. What about for you, Casey?
I'd say I'd agree with her on that. I think the drugs, you know, kind of give us that passion and zeal to kind of stand one another. I mean, it got to the point to where we couldn't stand each other at all sober, at all. We didn't want to be around one another, and like I said, I would get so drunk before noon and sleep all day. You know, I mean, I was sleeping my life away.
And this is early 20s.
Yeah, this
Late
is early
teens,
20s,
early
teenage, 19, 20 years old. This is like that before I was sentenced to 5 years in penitentiary.
Okay. So it's a good time to transition to that. How old were you whenever you went to
I was
prison?
20. I was
20
20
years
years old. Yes, sir. When they gave me 5 years for burglary of habitation.
Okay.
And
Looking for drugs, just trying to find things
yeah,
to sell for drugs?
we were using the stuff that we had taken to trade for drugs and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, we were. I want to just say me, you know, I
Yeah.
was doing whatever it took for me to get what I needed, you know, I didn't care about how anybody else felt about it.
Gotcha. Were you involved?
No, sir.
No.
She wasn't involved in criminal activity.
No. At this time, I had left.
Yeah, she had left
Yeah.
this time. That's right.
His aunt, it got to the point where it was really, really bad. Like, we were making it, trying to sell it, we were doing it, and his aunt, by God's grace, called my mom and dad to come get me. I wound up leaving, and I found out that I was 2 months pregnant, 98 pounds, barely hanging on to life. And by God, our child was healthy.
So you say barely hanging on to life because of the drugs?
Yes. I wasn't able to eat, and when I did eat, I was puking. I was extremely weak. I couldn't even get up. It was how bad it was. And
Was this a constant?
it was because I was constantly using it. When I would be high, I didn't want to eat. When I wasn't high, I still couldn't eat, and it was just horrible. It was horrible.
So you were back with your family while he was in
I was on my way to prison.
on your way to prison. Okay. Then while he was gone, you stayed with your family, or
Back and forth. I stayed with my mom and dad when I felt like it. Then I would take my children at the time, both of them, and I would go to his sister or I would go to his aunt. And it was just constant back and forth. I never really had a stable place with my children.
Gotcha.
From the moment that they were little, they literally moved at least 11 times in their lifetime.
And then, so let's fast forward to the 5 years. You get out. Obviously, your girls are older. How much of an impact did the loss of that 5 years have on you and your children, and also the marriage?
It had a big impact. My kids, when I got out, they didn't know me, so they didn't respect me as their father. They didn't know me as, I mean, they knew me as their dad, you know,
Yeah.
but they didn't, you know, I'd been around in that time, you know, Harmony was so little when I left, and I never met Hadley until I got out. It was the first time I ever met her. So I had to regain their trust, and hers also. I got back into, you know, working, trying to do right and everything. And then I was introduced to drugs again because I started making a good deal of money, you
Are
know.
y'all back together at this time? Did y'all?
Yeah,
did
yes,
y'all
yes,
reconcile?
we got back together whenever I got out.
Okay.
Yes, and then I fell back into the same routine, drinking, doing drugs, lost my job. We lost our house that we had got. I just got us a house. She come in one night and I was comatose pretty much, you know. I was on the verge of death. She just kind of freaked out there, you know, and she left again. This is within, 8 months of me being out of prison?
Yes.
Within 8 months of me being out of prison. And I went back to jail that day, or the next day I was back in jail. Got back out, got right back into the same stuff, and it just continued for several years.
So at that point, it was more of an in and out of jail type situation.
Yeah, I
Drugs
was
in jail.
drugs in jail.
She was not part of your life. She had left.
Yeah, every time I would go to jail, she would leave.
Yeah.
When I'd get out, I'd be so dedicated and set on getting my life back together, and I would make it happen. You know,
And she felt convinced that you were going to
every time,
stick
yeah,
this
because
time.
of
Yeah.
the progress.
I was about to ask you, what made you come back each time?
Well, it's because like I knew that there was better in me.
Yeah.
I wanted to believe in my heart that he was truly going to change. And each time, even though I still had that thought in my head that what if this happens? What if this is the last time? And can I truly go back through it? Am I doing it for me and being selfish, or am I doing it because we have children together and I want him to be a part of it? And I just kept going back knowing, and I kept hurting my children, I kept hurting myself, and I listened over and over again to my family. His family even got to the point where, are you truly okay with being with him? Do you really think he's going to change? And I just kept knowing in my heart that he could change.
Something was within him. You
Yes,
just couldn't let
it
go.
was there,
Gotcha.
and I just stuck with it.
Okay, so let's fast forward again. The last time was right before you started coming to New Life.
Mhm.
would you say that would be, what would be your rock bottom moment? Was it that point?
That
or
point.
Right before October of 2018?
Yes.
Yes, within that 6 months, it was very treacherous.
Okay, so you'd left him again,
Yes.
or let's say y'all had split up again,
Yes.
no longer together, now had 4 kids together.
Mm-hmm.
Situation not good all the way around.
All the way, it was horrible.
You're back involved in drugs.
Yeah, bad drugs.
What about you? What was the deal with you at that time?
Well, through that time, a lot of things took place. It was really bad. There was times where me and him were constantly fighting, and we couldn't stand one another.
Even though y'all weren't together.
No, we were before that all
Oh, okay.
happened. We were together. We lived together. We were raising our 2 children, and we didn't know we were pregnant at the time with our 3rd one. And he was really bad on drugs and alcohol. Whatever he can get his hands on, he had to have. Then we found out that we were pregnant with our 3rd one. And through this time, I thought everything would maybe lighten up and we could change. And that's when it got real bad. It got to the point where I didn't even know if I was going to survive. There was points where I thought about just ending it all and just giving my kids away because I felt their lives would be a whole lot better.
That's a tough place to get.
Oh,
as a
yeah.
mom.
I thought that when I got farther along that I wouldn't have to fear for my life, that the beating would stop. And it didn't. CBS got called, and my kids got taken away. Our youngest one was 2 months old, and I had to stop breastfeeding. I had to stop doing everything. The hardest part was the day that I actually left him. And at this time, I couldn't have my children back because I felt that I was a threat. I couldn't take care of myself, much less my kids. And I remember thinking, yeah, that's true. I didn't see myself worthy of anything. I didn't matter. If I could just sit here and let the man that I love do that to me, who was I? And we wound up splitting up and was gone for almost 2 months. I wouldn't talk to him. I didn't want to have nothing to do with him. And our last court date, we had to go and sign our rights over. And I remember I was high. I really was. I was high just so I could cope with it. And I didn't want to, but I knew if I didn't, they would be in foster care. And a part of me broke. And I don't even remember anything after that. I just started doing the drugs. I started trying to cope with everything and anything that I could possibly cope with.
So, y'all had that final court date.
Mm-hmm.
How long was that before you came to New Life for the first time?
Let me think here. A little over about a year.
Okay.
About a year.
Yeah.
But they went with my aunt,
Gotcha.
and then she began to give them a foundation with God.
Good. So now let's fast forward to October of 2018. What caused you to show up to church that night?
Well, we had just,
Because y'all were split up.
we
You came
had
by
just
yourself.
left our job. We quit our job and came back to my mom's place. And I remember I was so high, I didn't know if I was going to make it through the night. I didn't, and she had left. And I remember walking up and down the road that night about 2 or 3 in the morning, hallucinating to the point that, it was just horrific. And then I remember calling on God, telling God, look, if you save me from this, if you deliver me from this evil, I will serve you. I will follow you. I knew there's something there. I know there's something there. And if you show yourself to me, then I will begin to seek you. And then the very next day, I got this desire to read the Bible like nothing before. I couldn't even watch TV. I just read and read and read and read and read. And then within a week of reading, God was like, all right, you need to go. So I was like, okay, I got ready for church that night. My mom was like, we need to go find a church somewhere here. I need a Pentecostal church somewhere here in Corcoran. So we went and drove, and then we both looked at each other when we was coming by this church, and we say, yeah, this is it. This is the church here. So we pulled in, and I've been coming here ever since.
Yeah, awesome. And then how did y'all reconcile?
Well,
Faith,
yeah.
the dedication of me coming to church, because I had never really, I've always tried to do better, but never really included church.
Yeah.
This time, I put God before everything.
Right.
And I started seeking her and talking to her, and then we went and picked her up. She was, well, what do I
We
pick
had
you
to
up
go to court for a domestic violence
for? Yeah,
thing
we had to go
against
to
us.
court for a domestic
Yeah.
dispute against us.
Yeah.
And she came back, and then she started coming to church with us, and that's when she.
I really realized that he was changed. It was going to be different this time.
Yeah. So in that time, you came in, seeking the Holy Ghost, got, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, got baptized.
Yep.
And started seeking the Holy Ghost. Ended up getting it at church in Rosemont, a special service they had, or you were visiting your girls. Got the Holy Ghost over there, which was fantastic. You run through your experience when you came in. You started showing
Oh
up.
yeah. When I started coming back, I started really seeking. I was reading my Bible. I was praying, and I just remember I just wanted to be different. I remember truly wanting the Holy Ghost. I got baptized, and then we had that evangelist here. And I just remember going to myself and just sitting there, and it was just me and him. That's all I remember. And that day I remember getting it. And then just like a snake, he come and he tried to take it away from me.
Not the evangelist.
No. Satan come and try to tell me that I didn't get it. And then a part of my flesh started telling me, no, you didn't. And then that weekend we went down there to his dad's. And we went to his church. And my aunt was there. And I remember just putting my hand on her, and we both started speaking in tongues. And I was like, yep, I got it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, since that time, you both have had a sincere passion for God. God's turned your life around. Obviously, no matter if you've been in church for 2 weeks or 20 years, there's always, new challenges and new opportunities to work on our marriages, to work on ourselves. So by no means do we expect everybody to be perfect, but God certainly transforms you.
Yes.
The Holy Ghost giving you power. Y'all quit smoking cold turkey, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Y'all just turned your back on all that lifestyle. It wasn't always easy.
No.
You had challenges, temptations. A new way of life is always difficult, but you've allowed God to transition you and help you and change you. And what I think is fantastic is that after you've been filled with the Holy Ghost, after you started pursuing Him, now you're both, Amber, you lead our hymnals,
Yes.
do our hymnals. Casey, you play the bass. Y'all are both part of the outreach team. Y'all serve everywhere you can and commit, and you're just very faithful, and I'm very proud of you. I wanted your testimony to be shared. And I know we spent a lot of time on the pre-Christ part of your life, but I want people to see that are watching this, there's definitely hope.
Yes.
Whenever
yes.
there's drugs involved, whenever there's CPS is involved, whenever there's domestic violence is involved, whenever there's getting drunk and passing out before noon, whenever that's the testimony, whenever you're getting high just to be able to get through the day, whenever that's there's still hope. There's always opportunity. God is never going to completely walk away from you. So I appreciate you sharing your testimony. If you could quickly say, if there was one thing that you would say to other people like yourself, I'll let you go first, Casey. What would it be? What would you say to others in your former situation?
Turn from all the drugs, all the drinking. It's not worth it, and it's almost impossible to come out of it. It is impossible to come out truly without God.
Yeah.
And by seeking God, no matter what battle you come through, you'll always come out victorious.
Yeah, good. What about you, Lynn?
I would start by saying, even through this hard time, you truly do matter. Don't ever think that it'd be a whole lot easier if you just gave up. Keep pushing and seeking God. Hold true to His Word. And it will get a whole lot better, I promise.
Thank y'all very much. I really appreciate it. I know it wasn't easy. That's more that you've shared with even me directly than I've had you share before. So thank you. I know it wasn't easy. I know it's going to be a blessing to these good people that's watching. If you have more questions or if you would like a Bible study so that your life can be turned around just like Casey and Amber's, get in touch with us. We'll be glad to meet up with you. We're praying for you. God bless you. We love you.